Hey guys, Sam from Manfa's Makes. How are you all? Welcome back to all my returners, and hi to any newbies. It's so great to have you here. Please do stick around a while, and if you like what you see, give me a thumbie. They are free. So you have clicked on today for my hashtag Stashdown 2024 statistics. Now, if you are new around these streets, or if you are new to my channel, you may not know what hashtag Stashdown 2024 is. Well, it's a brilliant idea thought up by my yarny sis, Queen's Crafts by Bridget. If you are not familiar, I will link her channel down in the description box. Please make sure to go over, check her out, leave her a thumb, subscribe, do all of those things to show some yarny love and support for that amazing, amazing woman and dear, dear friend of mine, because this is something that she's been doing for the last couple of years. I didn't join in the first year, but I am this year, and I have just looked into my statistics for this month because we do it monthly, and I've just been having a conversation with Mike, which I will go into in just a second, and it really does clarify exactly how much you can get through in such a relatively short space of time. Now, how it works is we're kind of holding ourselves accountable on our videos or through messaging Bridget, because if you're not a content creator, you can join in as well. We're holding ourselves accountable for how much yarn we are using over the course of 2024. However, for it to qualify for Stashdown, it needs to be yarn that you bought or were gifted prior to 2024 in order for it to count, because it's not stash if you buy it and use it, because that's just quick turnover. It's only considered stash if it came into your possession before the year that we're doing it, so in this case 2024. Doesn't mean you can't buy new yarn. Of course you can buy new yarn. Bridget ain't gonna stop you. She can't, even if she wanted to, and she definitely doesn't want you to. But yes, we are holding ourselves accountable, because a lot of us have beautiful yarn stashes, and sometimes we just cannot keep track of exactly what we're using, how much we're using, etc, etc. And if you use your stash, it then ultimately means that you've got room for more, and it means that your beautiful cakes, skeins, donuts, hanks, however you have your stash, they just sit there, and yes, they look gorgeous. They are beautiful to look at. In my case, I have a yarnscape, and it gives me a lot of joy and pleasure every time I look at it, and it's inspiring, it makes me smile, it makes my heart happy. But we do want the pretty things to be turned into pretty things. That's why we either bought them or somebody thought to gift it to us. So what better way to get these things made up into beautiful items than to use it, but to keep a tally of what exactly you have used. So various different people are taking part. Content creators are doing videos or submitting their figures to Bridget. If Bridget catches one of our videos, and we've tagged Bridget in our videos, she is putting everybody who's made a video into a playlist. So she has a complete playlist of everyone taking part over on her channel, so that's another reason to go and check her out. And I have this segment as my own playlist as well, so I will link my playlist down in the description box for you, so you can see my progress from January all the way to now. But I do keep a rolling tally in my planner, and I have shocked myself this month, not with what I've used particularly this month, but the way I'm doing it. We're all holding ourselves accountable. Some people are keeping tally of how many cakes, skeins, donuts, hanks, whatever they have used. Some are calculating yardage that they have put into projects. Me, how I'm doing it is I am weighing the finished items. So, for example, I may have started something back in January, but I may not have finished it until this month. Therefore, it doesn't count in my particular way of doing Stashdown until the project is completed. I will then weigh it, and that will go on this month's tally because that was the month that it was completed. So for those of you that have many whips, you are able to carry those whips over as many months as it takes, and then you can include it once it is completed. That's the way I'm doing it. That's how I'm making myself stay on track and be precise in what I'm recording. And also, because I make things like amigurumi, they're quite small and they don't always take a full skein of yarn, so then I'm left with scraps. So I cannot claim the label because the ball isn't completely finished, and I cannot work out what yardage I've used because it's already made up into something. So the best way I thought of doing it is to weigh the finished item, because that item is always going to weigh that amount, and then the leftovers can go into my scrap bin, and then when I've used that scrap I can then save the label. Because also alongside this is something I've done ever since I had my channel, is I collect all of my yarn bands for the whole year, and then at the end of the year I add up how many yarn bands I have used and what the yardage on those yarn bands is for a total for the year's usage. But that's not what we're looking at today. What we're looking at today is my statistics for June, because we do this once a month at the end of the month, or as near to the end of the month as we can, in order for us to be kept accountable. I'm getting myself all in a muddle because I think I've repeated myself about 3 times now. So let's just get on with the statistics, shall we? So this month I finished a bat lovey, and the lovey blanket was 58 grams. I made a mouse lovey, and that lovey blanket was 53 grams. I then made a dragon lovey, and all of these loveys had featured on my channel, so you can go back and look. I think I called it Isn't It a Lovely Day? The dragon lovey was 51 grams because I just weighed the blanket. I just weighed the crochet piece. And then I finished my second Boggy Creek blanket. Now that blanket had 930 grams in it. So if I hadn't have, completed that project, my total for this month would have been very, very meager, very, very low. But because I got that blanket done, it has boosted my totals for June. Now, what else I have decided to do is I will give you a complete total every third of the year. So every 4 months there will be a total. But what I also did today is, because June is the 6th month, we are at the halfway point, and I wanted to know how much I have used in this first half of the year. Excuse me, I've got hiccups, I do apologise. I wanted my halfway point total, so I have that halfway point total, but for June that meant that I used a total of 1,092 grams, or 38.5 ounces for those of you that don't use grams. I do like to give you both of those weights. So just to repeat, that's 1,092 grams or 38.5 ounces. Okay, so not too shabby. It's not been my best total so far this year, but it's not my worst total either. It's still pretty impressive. I'm still really pleased with those totals. But what I am even more pleased about is my halfway point totals. OMG. So, at the halfway point, guys, so far I have used 8,658 grams, which is the equivalent of 305.4 ounces. Now, let me put that into a little bit of context for you. Most common yarns are in 100 gram balls. This is 113 grams, but just go with it. They are normally in 100 gram balls. So if I was, and I did, if I divided that total into 100 gram balls, I have used 86 and a half of these so far this year. That is amazing. Now, I'm sure there's others of you out there that have probably doubled that, tripled that, whatever, because a lot of you have like an Addy knitting machine, a Centro knitting machine. Some of you don't have to do that thing called work anymore because you're, you know, lucky enough to be retired and you have more time to do what we all love. But that's okay. My time will come for that. My time will come. But we all know that my crochet time is a little limited. So the fact that I've got through 86 and a half of those balls is just astounding to me. And we're only halfway through. So because Mike works in kilos as well, I said that's 8.6 kilos. And even he said that is an incredible amount of yarn for just 6 months. So the conversation that we had went a little bit like this. I said, you know, people keep saying to me that I'm not using up my yarn. And you know, the kids keep saying, Mum, why have you bought more yarn? You haven't even used what you've got. And you know, like my mum and dad come round and they look at my yarnscape and go, oh, you could set up your own yarn shop. Do you even use any of it? You may as well sell it and get a few quid. Whatever the comments they say. I said, I now have proof in black and white that yes, I do use my yarn. Yes, I do. I do. And it just means that I think what they don't actually understand is when I have a hole in my yarnscape, I pick something from the totes that are over here in the corner. I pull it from the tote and get it onto the shelf. And I do have a little bit of yarn that I haven't yet been able to put up because I've run out of space. Not bragging. It's just the truth. So I grab some of that and put it up on my yarnscape. So my yarnscape is always full. That doesn't show people that I'm using stuff because then I'm plugging the holes with more yarn that I have or more yarn that I buy. So it never looks like it's going down. It never looks like it's being used, but I can assure you it is. Otherwise, how have I got through 86 and a half skeins already? Just saying. And like I said to Mike, this is just for Stashdown. There's other yarn that I've been using throughout the year that can't count for Stashdown because it's stuff that I've bought this year or stuff I've been given this year. I can't include that in Stashdown, but that's more yarn on top of those totals. So I'm actually using even more than what I've shared with you today. Also, I have a massive scrap bin down there. If I've only used partial skeins, there's still more yarn on top. So this isn't even an accurate depiction. This is just accurate for Stashdown. It's not accurate for total yarn used ever, because I don't think it would be really easy to get those. Because, for example, I don't ever include Tile of the Week in Stashdown. Technically, most of it could be. Most of those tiles I could have included all year long because I use my scraps, and most of my scraps that I have used have been prior to 2024. But I didn't include the tiles because that's its own separate thing, and I cannot 100% guarantee that the scraps that I've used are definitely prior to 2024. They're not labelled. I haven't, you know, separated year to year what scraps I had left over. So because I can't be 100% sure, I don't count the tiles. But there is a lot of crochet that goes on separately to Crochet Catch Up. They have their own segments, or there's stuff that I'm working on in secret that isn't even included in any of this. So the 86 and a half is just from Stash. There is a lot more yarn being used that is brand new stuff that I can't include. So yeah, there's a lot of yarn being used here, guys, is all I'm trying to say. And when you look at totals like that, when you add it all up and you jot it down and then you break it into something more tangible for you to be able to understand, so in my case 86 and a half of those skeins, it really does blow your mind how much of this gorgeous stuff we call yarn that you can actually get through in a relatively short space of time. And then it blows your mind further that there's actually even more yarn on top of that. It just doesn't count for this particular incentive, this particular segment. Just to let you know, if you participate in Stashdown, it's not for winning prizes, it's not a competition, it's not anything like that. It's just us crafters keeping a track, keeping a tally, keeping ourselves accountable, and shocking ourselves at how much we can actually use up and what beautiful things we can produce when we put our minds to it, when we actually use the stash that we've got rather than going out buying new all the time. And also, when you deep dive in your stash, you find treasures that you may have slightly forgotten about. So it is enjoyable on all levels. So Bridget, if you're watching, A, I love you. B, I miss you, and C, thank you once again for coming up with this initiative, because you've blown my mind. By this simple concept, you are making me blow my own mind every single month, and I absolutely love it. Now, it's not just Stashdown that Bridget does on her channel. There is a plethora of different content that you can go over there and enjoy watching. She is a multi-skilled, multi-talented, beautiful human being that I am lucky enough to call my Yarny sister, my Yarny friend, and I really would appreciate it if you could go over and show us some love and give us some watch time and some likes and a subscribe and all of those wonderful things, because she is just an inspiring, awesome lady who I love so very much. So if you're intrigued to know what else Bridget does, get your butt over there and go and find out for yourself, because you will not be disappointed. No, you won't. Anyway, I have blabbered on for far too long about only a few finishes that I had this month, but I am excited. This has motivated me even more to get stuff made from my stash, to have bigger numbers next month, to make those totals as big as I possibly can. Like I said, it's not a competition, there's no prizes, but I am quite a competitive person, and even if I'm competing against myself, I will. So there we have it. Those are the totals for today. Obviously there will be another one of these videos next month, so who knows what will get done in another month's time. You'll have to come back and check it out when the time comes. But thank you so very much for being here today. I really do appreciate it. I will of course be back with another video very soon, but until then, stay safe, be kind, look after one another, get some good quality time in with your loved ones, and get some good quality crafting time in. I will see you in the next one, or around the YouTube streets. Bye guys, love you loads.